Hi, my name is Geert Van Gele and I would like to share some thoughts on playing Renaissance music in a concert setting. This video is part of a series that accompany the iBook Thoughts on the Recorder, which is available through my webshop, kettingbergrecordings.be. You can find a link in the description. I've also included a clickable link at the end of this video if you want to learn more about it. There are some general rules that can be applied to playing in concert. Next to these, a couple of general, albeit unwritten rules can be taken into account and at times thrown overboard, of course. If possible, a matched consort of instruments made by the same builder will help you achieve a beautiful blend much easier. If you are unable to purchase a matched consort from a builder, having a consort from one line of instruments from the same factory will always sound better than mixing and matching instruments from different factories or even from different lines from one factory. Good instruments will also tell how far you can go in terms of dynamics, articulations and so on. Especially dynamics are very different on Baroque and Renaissance recorders. The Renaissance idiom presents a wider, broader sound with a lot of possibilities towards differentiating articulations, whereas the Baroque idiom focuses more on sound flexibility, which then in turn can be combined with articulation differences. But don't think now that dynamics are not applicable to Renaissance music. On the contrary, they can be applied to bring out the expressivity of certain passages or to give a better marking of the structure. In concert playing, it can give a great result when all the members of the consort bring out dynamics simultaneously. If the diapason, which is the exact pitch in which the instruments are tuned, is given some freedom to move about in certain places, the effect is really wonderful. And don't be afraid that it will sound out of tune. When dynamics are applied with all recorders at once, the pitch will move up and down all at once with all the instruments staying neatly in tune with one another. Individual players should make sure they adhere to the singing quality of their individual voices. Whenever their lines go up or down, they should act accordingly with dynamics. Dare to play also with some rubato. Stretch the tactus at times in order to give those special places in the harmony that little extra time to cherish. bass line can benefit greatly when playing shorter notes, whenever the line lets you do this. This is the case when the bass line makes leaps, or when it has a more or less rhythmic function. One can safely make a comparison with the Baroque basso continuo in this sense. As with the basso continuo, at times when the melody or the musical motive gives you the freedom to look at the part as a solo, you can play around with the legato in order to create a more singing quality. But more often than not, will the bass line benefit from separating the notes. Inner voices of a consort can also benefit greatly from playing shorter whenever possible. Especially sustained notes can be treated in this way with great result. These shorter notes will create more space for the consort sound. The fabric of the music will become more transparent, easier to understand for the audience. As an extra benefit, it creates more freedom for the other voices of the consort to bring out their lines more whenever they need to be more singing. Of course, the top part is exempt from this rule, since this is the melody which will be heard at all times. As a rule of thumb, all the voices benefit when leaps are being separated. All the remarks on shortening, separation the notes in different parts will help the overall gentle dance feeling, the easy swaying that Renaissance and medieval music inhibits. For the same reason, it's also very important to have a steady tactus going. This doesn't mean, however, that the tempo shouldn't breathe. On the contrary, a consort truly benefits from having the ability to give and take in terms of tempo, or rubato if you want. It clarifies the music and it thrills the audience to hear an ensemble with such great qualities. It's good practice to have the bass instrument be louder in order to balance out the ensemble. If you play on an instrument that can be pulled out, it will often work very well to pull out the bass in order to have to blow harder to be in tune. Basses also need to make sure the beginnings of the notes are very well defined. Therefore, it's good practice to often accentuate the attack a bit. Now be careful though not to overdo this, since it can quickly become disturbing for a listener when there's always a chiff in the attack. Use good judgment for this. In order to bring out the bottom notes on bass instruments, a good control of breathing accents as well as attacks is pretty crucial. See video 14 for more on this. On the other end of the concert, it's often good for the soprano to play a bit softer in order to blend better with the ensemble. To achieve this, one can often revert to tuning the soprano a bit higher than the other instruments, or have the other instruments pull out. According to recorder builder Bob Marvin, this principle of balancing an ensemble was also described in contemporary Renaissance treatises concerning singing in consort. The higher voices should sing more quietly, whereas the basses should be more present. In Renaissance music, a lot of the times syncopations will occur in the different voices. As a general rule, again, general rules are there to be disregarded at times. As a general rule, a syncopation can be brought out better by shortening the note in front of it, thus separating it. A common way of interpreting syncopations is done often by giving an accent on the syncopation in order to bring it out. I think this is a pity, because to my feeling this destroys the nice feeling that a syncopation induces. A better way of dealing with syncopations, to me, is by giving it a lilt. I'll try to explain this. If you give a little breathing accent by adding a bit of breath pressure just after the note has started, followed by relaxing the note again, the syncopated note is being propelled upward a bit, rather than being crushed when executed with an accent. This upward feeling gives the lilt which feels more like a dance move. In my view, Renaissance and medieval music truly benefits when it inhibits this dance lilt. Contrary to playing with a harpsichord, for instance, one needs to be in tune with a harpsichord when you play with a harpsichord. But consort players always search for pure intonation, just like singers do. Anything that's not pure in the chords will be experienced as out of tune and needs to be avoided as much as possible. When there are a lot of passing notes happening, this is not as important because the tuning of these notes will not be noticeable because of their duration. But whenever longer notes are in play, this becomes crucial. Whenever there is text underlay in 16th century repertoire, this will help you tremendously in your interpretation. First of all, the text is your storyline right there, so you basically only have to reproduce the emotion captured in the text. This, of course, is easier said than done, but as stated before, when your sound control is well established, by playing long notes, of course, and you have a good connection with your instrument, then your inner voice will translate the connected emotion of the text into your recorder. A couple of pointers apply here though. When dealing with text, it's not always necessary to try to imitate the consonants of the words literally. Sometimes the starting consonants of certain words don't lend themselves very well for imitating on the recorder. This may be because of the nature of the word, but sometimes also because of the placing of the word in the musical line. Let's not forget that words need to obey to language rules. Instrumentalists don't have these problems. As an instrumentalist, you will often want to choose alternative articulations in order to come up with a more logical line. On the other hand, however, it's good practice to try and get as close as possible to playing the words by imitating the starting consonants of the word and/or the syllables. This will also make it easier for you to connect to their emotions. Word colorations in the music occur plentifully in 16th century music as well as in music of the Baroque era. These are places where a particular word or part of a sentence is being illustrated by melody and rhythm while it's being sung. This is of course a thankful feature of this repertoire, which makes it easy to interpret once detected. These places illustrate and augment the emotions of the words. Starting and stopping an ensemble. A great deal of thought should go to starting and stopping a consort, and actually starting and stopping any possible ensemble. Normally, the person playing the first part will take charge for signaling the group. The best way to do this is by first singing the projected tempo internally and then signaling an imaginary pickup to the first note. This ghost pickup signals two different features simultaneously. First of all, it will give a perfect idea of the coming tempo. And second, by the gesture with which you give the pickup movement, you communicate perfectly to the other members which character the piece is going to be in. It's really important, however, that when the person who is giving the signal to the other members, that the other members of the ensemble are very observant. This also means that the others should take a breath well before the person in charge does so. so that the only thing they need to do is starting their note. Most students will take their breath simultaneously with the person in charge, and by doing so, they will more often than not miss out on the precise character and tempo given. By breathing simultaneously, you are tempted to follow your own pickup tempo and character rather than the one from the person in charge. That's it for now. If you follow the link, you can watch the next video on how to deal with early notation and diminutions in Renaissance music. Thanks for watching and see you next time.